Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Okay, first of all, regulars, you know that that's pathetic and we need a better Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much. Welcome to Temple Israel. All right, we're a little lopsided tonight. It's a little funny. I'm have to change my focus a little bit, but it's okay. We're good. So
I'm
glad.
a lefty, so
I know it's weird.
green.
Usually people go on the right. I don't know what it
Thank
is. It's good. The steeples are in the back. They're keeping my focus over there. Okay. There's this congregation that sometimes Rabbi Michael and I go to when we're in Jerusalem called Kol HaNeshama. And at the beginning of services every week at Kol HaNeshama, the rabbi there invites everyone to take a deep breath. And I kind of need to do that tonight. So join me, if you will. We're going to do a Nishama Amuka. And as we take this deep breath, the idea is that we take just a few moments and we think about the week that was. And we put all of those days behind us, the good moments and the bad moments, and just try to actually be in this moment. So that just for 45 minutes or an hour or so, we can just be in this space, focused on who we are and where we are and what we want to be, and just have some time for a little bit of peace and a little bit of inspiration. So maybe one more Nishama Amuka. Welcome. So we're going to start tonight. Don't have a cape. All right, so that's cool. It's one of those nights. Let's turn to page 11. So on the bottom of page 11, there's a song called Ki Eshmer Shabbat, and it's all about the idea of just keeping Shabbat as holy and sacred to each of us. Ki Eshmer Shabbat El Yishmereni, Ki Eshmer Shabbat El Yishmereni, Oti Leomeyad Beino Veini, Oti Leomeyad Beino Eshmer Shabbat El Yishmereni, Ki Eshmer Shabbat El Yishmereni, Oti Leomeyad Beino Veini, Oti Leomeyad Beino Uveini. So there's a lot of big things happening this weekend, a lot of them just happening tonight. So we had our Tat Shabbat tonight, we have a tour tonight, we have a class tonight that we'll tell you about afterwards. And we have our Purim Carnival also on Sunday. But one of the most important things that's happening this weekend is Ruby is becoming bat mitzvah. And so, in anticipation of that awesome moment, we are going to invite some members of her family. Wait, did I write this down? Yes. So, the whole family is coming up. All right, so Amy and Keith and Ruby and Hazel, will you guys come on up and help us with the Shabbat blessings, which can be found in the beginning of our Siddur on page 2. Rabbi Michael is going to show you the coolest lighter that ever there was. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. All right, Hazel, can you reach the Kiddush cup? Just stick your hand. Yes, perfect. All right, we lift the Kiddush cup into the air. Beautiful. Awesome. Turn around so everyone can see your awesomeness. Beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. You're allowed to take a sip if you want to. It's Purim, but it's still juice. All right, Ruby, will you grab the challah? You have to open it up to make sure it's really challah. What if it's something else? Oh, no, it's challah. That's good. Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. You take a bite? Yes. Excellent. A big hunk. Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you all. Beautiful. Now you're ready to be bar mitzvah. Awesome. Thanks, guys. So we know that when we bring in Shabbat, that there's this idea that it's supposed to be more special and more sacred than any other time we come together. And so one of the prayers that we do that helps remind us of that is Lecha Dodi on page 20. It's the song that talks about welcoming in the Shabbat bride. And this one is just a little bit of a different tune that we put together. Hopefully the melody will be one that you'll recognize. Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabala Lecha Dodi likrat kala P'nei Shabbat nekabala Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad Hishmiyanu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad L'shemo tiferet v'leitilah Remember me to the one who lives there She once was a true love of mine So I'll ask you now to please turn to page 28 and rise as we join together in the call to worship, the words of the Baruch Hu. Yai da 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 Yai da 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 Yai da 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 Yai da 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 Yai da 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 Yai da 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 Yai da 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 Yai da 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed.
On page 31, praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide this current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows.
Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And we join in Shema on 34. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavacha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta ba'am B'shivtecha b'beitecha, uv'lechtecha v'derech, uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha, ugshortam la'ot al yadecha, v'hayu latotafot b'neinecha, uchtabtam al mezuzot beitecha, uv'isharecha, leman tizkeru, v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, V'tem kadoshim leloichem, Ani Adonai Eloichem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem lelohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem. On 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there's no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Milchamocha is the song of freedom, but we follow it with the words of Hashkivenu, asking God, once we've found freedom, to spread a shelter of peace with us wherever it is that we may go. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamidenu shomreinu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom. V'hamid Lechaim. So we turn now to page 46, and in our bodies or in our spirits, whatever you are comfortable with, I'll ask you again to please rise for words of tefillah. Adonai, sefatai tiftach, ufi agita ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el ha'gadol ha'gibor v'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel chasadim tovim, V'konei hakol, V'zocher chasrei avot v'imohot, U'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, L'ma'an shemo ba'ava, Melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia. Mechakel chayim ve'chesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim ve'ofech olim, Umatzir asurim. Umekayem emunato lishnei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, umido melech, melech meimit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, Na'aman atah lechayot hakom, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. On page 53, days pass and the years vanish, and we walk sightless among miracles. God, fill our eyes with seeing and our minds with knowing. Let there be moments when your presence, like lightning, illumines the darkness in which we walk. Help us to see wherever we gaze that the bush burns unconsumed, and we, clay touched by God, will reach out for holiness and exclaim in wonder, how filled with awe is this place, and we did not know it. Please be seated. On 61, I invite you to join with me in the English at the top of the page. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocates among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We turn now forward in our prayer books to page 253. And at this time, we take a few moments and we think of those in our community, in our families, in our circle of friends who are in need of healing prayers. So if there's someone who you're thinking of at this time who could use prayers and who would appreciate knowing that their names were shared here, we'll give you a few moments and you're welcome to share them at this time. We're thinking tonight of Drew, and we're thinking of Lisi Weinstein and Arlene Alper. and all of those names that we're thinking to ourselves and it's too hard to say. For them and for us, we sing a healing prayer, and we hope that healing comes their way.
Shalom Aleinu Ve'yakol Yisrael Ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom Bimromo U'ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen. Oseh Shalom bimromav Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu ve'yakol Yisrael ve'imeru Amen.
So this week on the Jewish calendar, we are celebrating the holiday of Purim. It actually doesn't happen until next week, but we like to do things on the weekends here to make sure that everyone can enjoy it. So this is going to be a whole Purim week for us. And I would venture that if you asked anyone who has celebrated Purim before, they would probably tell you that it is the most fun Jewish holiday. Miss Epstein has an amazing sweatshirt that she can show you with all the Purim characters on it. My kids are so excited. They have already started writing next year's Purim spiel, Purim play, because they cannot wait for it to come. And Purim really is awesome. It's got cookies, it's got drinking, it's got theater, you dress in costume. Really everything about it seems like it would be fantastic. But I will also tell you that Purim is probably the least Jewish of all of our Jewish holidays. Now, I'm going to come back to that, but in order to explain why, I know we have some folks here tonight who have never celebrated Purim before, so I'm going to do a brief Purim explanation. So Purim is all based off of one book in the Hebrew Bible. It is the book of Esther. And in the story of Esther, there is a king, and this king is famous for having really awesome parties. And so he's having this like total rager, and in the party, he asks his wife to come to the party and sort of show off for his guests. It's implied that he asks her to come naked, and she wisely says no, and he says, well, then you're not going to be the queen anymore, and he decides that he wants to find a new queen. And so he has a beauty contest to find who is going to be the next queen, and he chooses Esther. Now, Esther, while she is beautiful, she is an orphan. She really doesn't come from much of anything. She's also Jewish. And she lives with her uncle Mordecai, who is very excited when he finds out that his niece is going to be the queen, but he says to her, you know what, honey, maybe don't tell the king that you're Jewish. Might not go over that well. And so Esther's like, fine, Uncle Morty, whatever you want. So she just goes on into the king's household, becomes the queen, doesn't say anything about her Jewishness. Uncle Mordecai, on the other hand, is pretty outspoken about his Jewishness. He's a pretty outspoken guy in general, and he's going around, and he's actually doing all sorts of heroic deeds. He even saves the king's life at one point. The king doesn't even know about it. But there's one point where the king's right-hand man, whose name is Haman. Thank you. Okay. Oh, good. So you do know the story. All right. So the king's right-hand man, not a very nice guy, and he's riding through the streets one day, and he wants everyone to bow down to him, but Mordecai doesn't do it because Mordecai says, I am a Jew, and we don't bow down for anyone except for God. Well, Haman is so upset about this that he decides that what he's going to do to punish Mordecai, he's going to do more than just punish Mordecai. He is going to kill Mordecai and all of the Jews. And he has to find the perfect day to have this massacre. And so he draws lots to find the right day. And lots in Hebrew is Purim. That's where we get the name from. So he draws lots, he finds the perfect day to kill all the Jews, and Uncle Mordecai is like, okay, now this is getting a little bit serious, he's a little concerned, and so he goes and tells his niece Esther, you know what, honey, now is the time maybe to out yourself to the king as a Jew. Esther comes up with this plan to be able to reveal her Jewishness to the king and to everyone else, and she does so, and the king makes sure that the plan does not go through. And they all live happily ever after, and the day that they were going to all be killed on instead becomes a day of joy and celebration, but it's still the same day, so we call it Purim. And that's basically the end of the story. Now, it sounds like it would make a pretty good holiday, right? Because it follows that traditional Jewish theme of, they tried to kill us, we survived, let's eat, right? So that does seem like it would be a perfect fit. But besides that, there is a whole lot about the story and about the holiday that just doesn't feel very Jewish. First of all, if we look at the story itself, the book of the Bible is called Esther, and the hero of the story is a heroine, Esther. This does not happen very much in the Hebrew scriptures. Now, I'm not saying that Torah is misogynistic. It's not, but it's not necessarily great to the ladies. In fact, for the most part, most of the female heroes in Torah, Sarah, Miriam, things do not actually turn out all that well for them. So already to be able to have a whole book based on a heroine, based on a woman, is already something that feels actually a little bit not that Jewish. In terms of characters in the story, though, perhaps the most strange and not Jewish thing is the absence of one character in particular. There is no God in this story. Now, I have to tell you that Rabbi Michael told me earlier this week that there are other versions of the Esther story, and in the Septuagint, I think that's what you said, in the Septuagint, there is actually God. But the version that came down to us in our tradition, no God. No God in the story. The only line that maybe sometimes people interpret as there might be God in there is there's a moment when Mordecai says to Esther, you have to be the one to save the Jewish people. If you don't, then help may come from another place. And so some people were like, oh, another place, that must be God. But it's kind of a stretch. Doesn't really feel like that's implying God at all. And this is a big deal because we know that in the entire Hebrew Bible, God is the main character. God is either the protagonist or the narrator, but there are no stories that happen without God. And even all of the great miracles that happen in all of our sacred scriptures, like the Israelites being taken out of slavery and the parting of the sea, and all of the wonderful things that happen, we always make very clear to say it was God who made those miracles happen and not the people themselves. In this story, though, no God at all. And then there's also problems with the holiday itself. Now, there are some lovely things about this holiday. Like I said, the eating of the cookies, and that's a nice thing. And there's also on this holiday, you're supposed to give gifts to people in need and gifts to your friends. But for most of us, what do we know about Purim? You dress up and you drink. Those are the things that Purim is the most famous for. And those two things are really decidedly un-Jewish. When we say we dress up, the idea is really specifically that you're supposed to dress in drag. This is the one holiday where you are actually supposed to dress like the opposite gender. Because in Judaism, we have so many rules actually about the way we dress and making sure that we all stay within these boundaries. But on Purim, we don't do anything like that. Same with the idea of drinking. We're told on this holiday that we are supposed to drink ad lo yada, which means until you don't know the difference between Mordechai and Haman. If you don't know the difference between the good guy and the bad guy. But when it comes to drinking, even though in Jewish tradition we know that people drink Kiddush wine, we don't really hear, we have Kiddush grape juice, but still there is certainly nothing wrong with drinking alcohol in Judaism. But for all of our Yiddish speakers in the group, Sarah Jane will tell you later all of the different Yiddish phrases that there are that talk about the idea that the Jews are not supposed to be the alcoholics. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, Sarah Jane will tell you all the funny ones later. They're not very nice because Yiddish is so funny, but it's not very nice. But most of the sayings say that Jews, we are not known for being big drinkers. But here there's this holiday that says that you are supposed to get so inebriated that you can't even tell between the good guys and the bad guys. That is so not Jewish. So with all of these issues, with the idea that it's a very female-centered text, with the idea that there is no God in it, with the idea that we are supposed to dress in ways we don't usually dress, and we are supposed to drink in ways we don't usually drink, all of these things seem so profoundly un-Jewish. What is this holiday and what is this book doing in our tradition? So I'd like to give you at least one answer. You know, part of it, I think, actually comes from what Ruby is going to share with you tomorrow. I'm not going to steal your Dvar Torah. It's awesome. You will all have to hear it yourself. But one of the things that Ruby talks about is the idea that the Esther story is supposed to teach us this idea that we can be whoever we want to be. That if someone like Esther, this little girl who came from nothing, is able to become the hero of the Jewish people, we can be anything we want to be. But I think there's another piece of it, too. The Purim also says, even if we can be anything we want to be, we can also be anything. We can be anything at all. And sometimes it turns out that we are not the good guy. Sometimes it turns out that that thing that we are becoming is the bad guy. Purim tells us that maybe there's not that much of a difference between good and bad. And that sometimes we may even think that we are on this track of doing the right thing, and actually we are not the hero of our story at all. We, maybe, are the villain. And we see so many examples of this. We can see a lot of this that's happening in Israel today. We can see a lot of it that is happening with our own country when all of us feel so strongly about our beliefs and we know we're right, but what if we're not? What if we think we're the good guy of the story and we're the bad guy? The place, honestly, where this happens the most is back in the story of Purim. Remember when I was telling you the story and I was like, and it basically ends here. Well, that's not really where it ends. That's where it ends when we're telling the story to kids. The real end of the Purim story is that after the Jews are saved, they go and they find all of the scaffolding that Haman was going to kill the Jews on, and they go and they take that scaffolding and they kill Haman and all of his family. The Jews become the bad guys at the end of the Purim story. And while we may not tell that version to our children, and we may not share it in our Purim spiel, in some ways that's the most important reminder. That so often, whether it's Purim or any other time of year, things can become topsy-turvy really quickly, and we may find ourselves not becoming the heroes that we want to be, but maybe being the bad guys. So this Purim, while I wish that you have all of the frivolity and all of the fun of dressing in costume and even drinking if you want to and eating cookies and all of that goodness, may you remember that sometimes, while you may think that you're the hero of your own story, it just takes a little bit to become ad lo yada, to get to that point where you can't tell the difference between good and evil, and it's just possible that you may have thought that you were the good guy, and instead you're becoming the bad guy. May all of us find a way to be the good guy, and may we do it with the joy of Purim. So, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach, everyone. So, we are going to do announcements now or announcements later?
What do you want to announce?
What I'd like to announce is that we have more that we want to say about Purim, so much more. And one of the things that we wanted to be able to talk about is that there's sort of this magic that we talk about with sort of the joy and the festivities that come with Purim. So we're doing something a little bit different tonight. After services, we're ending a little bit early. So what we'd like for you to be able to do, if you so wish, is to join Rabbi Michael and me. We are going to be in the boardroom following services, and we're going to do a little, it's not really a class, what would you call it?
This is a remedy for, it's a little bit like a class, but it's not. It's more of a schmooze. It's a schmooze.
It's a schmooze. It's a schmooze with
schmooze.
learning and treats.
Yes.
And we're calling it abracadabra. And so it's teaching a little bit about magic and Judaism. It's not going to be very long. Get yourself a snack. Come and join us afterwards. But first, let's do a few more prayers, and then we'll get you there. So, if you will, I would ask you to rise again on page 282, and we'll join together in the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol, לתת גלויה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
So even in this time when we are experiencing so many simchas, we know too that there are those who are with us tonight and those who are watching from home who are here because they've experienced a loss. And so we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names. Joseph Achtentuch, Philip Barron, Celia Greenberg, David Mason, and Bernard Benjamin Spiegel. And we now recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or on the Wall of Honor for a perpetual memorial. Sarah Fox Adis, Molly Eisenfeld, Benjamin Arnovitz, Helen Kinsman-Bear, Jack Bach, Morris Bass, George Berry, Hattie Bierman, Leonard Bierman, Lois Lee Bierman, Norman Cecil Broaden, Stuart Kaplan, Mindell Bamberger Surf, Sally Cohn, Emmanuel M. Cole, Jacob Crone, Selma Dennis, Erna Deutsch, Mark Aaron Edison, Ronald Fenster, Ben J. Franklin, Samuel Gartenberg, Eleanor Gertner, Milton Goldman, Robert C. Gordon, Nathan Greenberg, Charles Greger, Max Grossman, George Gunther, Marcus Harris, Fanny Holtz, Louis Honig, Ida Horwitz, Stanley Jacobs, Dr. Ernst Jonas, Gay Beth Katz Skobach, Joseph Kaufman, Hannah Lederer-Cohn, Phyllis Snopf Kurland, Barry Krem, Bebe Krem, Michael Cutton, Clifford Lewis, Joseph Manny, Edith Mannheimer, Manfred Mayer, Natalie Melman, Ida Meyer, Rose Meyer, Ben Resnikoff, Sadie Seidel Rickensall, Peggy Ross, Rabbi Merrill C. Rubin, Alberta Coleman Shield, Estelle Schneider, Augusta Schoenstatt, Jack Schultz, Leon Schwab Jr., Malvern Schweig, Dolly Schoenberg, Louis Silverman, Richard Simon, David Singer, Jerome Spector, Nancy Steele, Gunter Herbert Stern, Harold M. Stern, Jeannie Thornberry, Louis Weinstein, Norman Wolanski, Bertha Wildman, Second Lieutenant David P. Wohl Jr., who died in the service of our country, Minnie Meyer Wolfheim, Charles Yalem, Cadet James Henry Yalem, who died in the service of our country, Sergei Zevlever, and Emil Ziskind. So with these names and the names we keep on our hearts, we join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach hiroteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv emru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'omei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitala shmei dekudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechmata, da'amiran ba'ama v'emru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'emru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved. And we say, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen. So one closing song before we send you on your way. So this one is Olam Chesed Yibaneh, and it just asks God to be able to build a perfect world for us. We don't have a capo. I'm just going to sing really low, but you can sing over how you want to. Olam chesed yibaneh, yadadai, 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 yadadai. 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 I will build this world. I will build this world from love. Yadadai, 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 yadadai. You will build this world. You will build this world from love. Yadadai, 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 yadadai. And if we build this world, from love, yadadai, 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 yadadai. God will build this world. God will build this world from love. Yadadai, 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 yadadai. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So if you wish to join us for the class, head that way and to the right. Otherwise, we hope to see you on Sunday for our Purim Carnival. There's still a chance to get tickets and all sorts of fabulous things.